Yeah, so what's this whiskey rebellion you speak of?
All right, it's the very first time, and it's this time in U.S. history where people in Pennsylvania decided they didn't want to pay taxes, the very first tax, right?
Which was on
production
whiskey?
of alcohol. On
Oh my
on
gosh.
all hard spirits, but whiskey was, come on, it's whiskey. It's the U.S., it's whiskey.
That's the coolest thing to say. It's just nice to say too. You know, not only is it delicious, but it's also nice to say.
Exactly. Yes. And so what happened is, in the end, George Washington had to call up militia and federalize them, and then send them out under Robert E. Lee's father to crush these distillers and bring them into compliance with U.S. law. So, for anyone who says taxation is theft, the founding fathers would disagree.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. You know what? I'm so upset that they didn't win. And I wish they did. I wish the distillers had won.
Well, they were going to join France or Spain, so I'm kind of glad they didn't.
Oh. Okay, yeah, in that case. Yeah, okay.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy.
All right, guys, welcome back to Drunkenomics, the drinking podcast with an economics problem. Back with Aaron. Sorry about the technical mishaps last week. They were definitely a thing we had to deal with.
Yeah, but, that was tough.
We are back and as average as ever. I don't know how to put that any more kindly. By the power vested in the VIX, I remain your less gracious host, James Goldwater. And with the VIX at 1720, weighing in at 1721
nice.
On the VIX scale, across from me, more gracious as ever, always, the irascible, the irrepressible, Aaron Wong.
Yes, it's me, back from Boston, back from tech issues. That's why I was absent the last, let's just call it 3 weeks. I can't believe it's been 3 weeks since I'm drinking with you guys. I miss you guys. I miss you guys all so much. And it's good to be back once again as the more gracious host. VIX, how is it still so low? I have no idea, but I think I have an idea. I'll get to that later. But as to why the market's reacting the way they are, I guess it kind of makes sense. I don't really know. Either way, bourbon tastes good. Hope you have a nice stiff one in front of you as well. Unless, of course, you're about to drive somewhere. In that case, just wait a little bit longer. All right, just get to where you're going.
Absolutely.
And then have the stiff one. It's the drunkenomical thing to do. But
absolutely right.
Yeah. With that, our social media. What is it again, James?
It is at Drunkenomical, DRUNKENOMICAL, and that is on Facebook, Instagram, so in the metaverse,
separately
now with 1.3 billion fewer dollars, and then also over on Twitter now with a new CEO. Maybe
did they get one already, or is
she hadn't taken over yet, but she's been announced.
Gotcha. Oh, that's and it.
So
those stages. Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of those.
Fun.
So on there, and from there you can find the invite to our Discord, free to all. You can jump in and join us in a general chat in the Drunkenomical pub where we just shoot some recipes through, ask us questions. Reach out to us on any of our services, and any of these services. We'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. If you don't hear from us, maybe it's because we're saving it for the air. But
exactly.
Also, if you want to check us out on LinkedIn, still Drunkenomical there, and or just us.
You can always add me. I'm always happy to hear from all of you. If you do add me, just let me know that this is you heard this, and you're like, hey, I heard you said I can add you, and I'll
absolutely,
for sure.
Just let us know it's related to the podcast, because there's a few I get. I kind of hate it, but I get some of these links that are like, hey, they're not grammatically not the best, and they're like,
and they're like, hey, I want you to attend this sales conference where we can teach you how to trade NFTs, and it's like, no thanks, dude, no thanks.
And it's like, I'm good.
But anyway, seriously, a word from you guys there anywhere is very much appreciated. And before we go any further, I should probably also throw in this disclaimer, just to kind of protect myself and the company that I work for. None of the thoughts and views that I express on this reflect their thoughts and views. They're strictly my own, and they're independent of things that I hear and see at work.
Yep. So everything we're basing on is public knowledge, internal synthesis in our own heads without something we're seeing at work. It's all based on public information.
Exactly.
This is not financial advice. This is not that. If you hear something that seems really exciting, too good to be true, too awful to be true, go ahead and do some research yourself. Ask us, and we'll tell you where we found it, or just or generally speaking, where we're sourcing our material, and make up your own mind.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say this too, like pretty much everything we talk about here, it's all stuff that we saw on Reuters. I watch CNBC pretty religiously. If anybody knows me, they'd know that I religiously watch CNBC for better or for worse. And I watched a lot of other. Yeah, I watched a lot of other stuff too. The Compound of Friends with Downtown Josh Brown, hilarious show. I watch that all the time. Market Rebellion, I watch that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting my source. And briefings from Goldman Sachs. So a lot of investment banks, they put out their outlook pieces. It's free to all. Like anybody can access this. So people always talk about
you just have to take the time, and I mean, finding the information isn't always hard. It's making it make sense. That's usually what's difficult.
Yeah, but it's all out there, right? Like, I mean, JP Morgan, they always put their market outlook, their bond outlook, whatever it is. They publish this stuff. It's sometimes 40 pages long, so it's not necessarily easy to get through, but
yeah, it's usually pretty dry.
Yeah, it's usually like there's things like the Fed Beige Book, right? It's public information. That's usually stuff that we try to talk about, or we'll make a toast to something like I want to personally right now, if I may, make a toast to Josh Freese. Does anybody know who he is? I'm getting crickets, so I think that is a no. But Josh Freese,
I didn't hear anyone.
Yeah, Josh Freese is the new drummer for the only band that has been fighting the Foo Fighters. Josh Freese has replaced Taylor Hawkins. So I want to make a toast to him. I think he's awesome. I remember watching their Taylor Hawkins tribute band concert, whatever, and he played, I forget what song it was. He played a song with the Foo Fighters. And I remember watching that live stream, and I was like, "Dang, that guy's a really good fit." I was like, "This guy fits in so well." Like, they had Chad Smith play. They had all these great drummers play. And I remember seeing this guy, and I was like, "Holy cow!" Like, even they had Roger Taylor's son. So Roger Taylor was famously the drummer for Queen. Roger Taylor's son, Rufus Taylor, he played. He was a good fit too.
He's also a fantastic player, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. And then I remember seeing this guy, Josh Freese. I was like, "Who is that guy? I've never seen him before. This guy's amazing." He played for like Suicidal Tendencies, I think. He played for Nine Inch Nails. I think he played a bit for Jane's Addiction. But I remember seeing him. I was like, "God, this guy's an excellent fit, dude." And sure enough,
and Aaron was right.
He's in the band, and the Foos are still being fought. I miss Taylor Hawkins every day, but this is an excellent replacement. I'm so happy that they're touring with this guy, and I can't wait to see the Foo Fighters. So cheers to the Foo Fighters. I hope that was worthwhile for you. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Well, if we're gonna do that, like if we're gonna raise a glass to that, then I kind of said something earlier. Let's
cheers.
In a way, we'll pour one out. Let's pour one out to Recep Erdogan just really quick. I mean, he's having a better day today than he was up until today. Than he was after last election. So this is the first time he's had to go to a runoff in his 20 years running the nation of Turkey. So
what happened to him up until today? So I know he had that runoff. So what happened today?
Up until today, he was running for president. He did not get the 50% that he needed to win outright, but he did. So pouring one out for him. I mean, he's driven his country's economy into the ground. And he did it before COVID. He did it before COVID made that cool.
Is that a good thing?
They've been in a financial crisis since 2018. The original hipsters.
I don't know if this is the badge of honor or if it's just like a really walk of shame kind of deal for you. But I don't know.
It's one of them.
Like, if you want to get famous, you got to do what you can, right? You got to get known for one thing good or one thing.
Let's pour one out for him. He's actually having to go to a runoff election actually this Sunday, so the 28th, and he'll be facing off against
can you say his name?
Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu or Kılıçdaroğlu. I learned how a much better version of the pronunciation.
I'll say this. I don't know if there's a single American that doesn't have a Turkish background that can say it as well as you can. So I'll applaud you for that.
I'm trying. But so just pour one out to Recep for having to go to a runoff, Putin doesn't have to go to a runoff.
Well, that's a good point.
Xi has never had to go to a runoff.
Wow, that's really convenient for that guy, wouldn't you say?
I mean, it's something.
That's a good point.
It might be convenient for him. I don't know about anyone else.
I know, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But that's a good pouring out, man. I'll pour one out to him. I want to talk about this for a little bit longer, though. So, Turkey, should we, what happened with Turkey?
Okay, what hasn't? They've got a few problems.
Yeah, let's just say they have a lot of economic problems.
Yeah, economically, they've got some serious problems. So they've had.
Yeah, we could drink to this for a while. I mean, this is
absolutely, and it works really well with my analogy. So what's happened is they're in the middle of a sovereign. It's not necessarily a debt crisis. It's a currency crisis.
Well, so wait, what happened? Didn't they owe a lot of money? So up until 2018, they raised a lot of. Didn't they raise a lot of cash? They sold a lot of bonds to the EU, right, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, like most nation states in the modern world, they are their deficit spending, which is fine if you're seeing the economic growth on the other end that makes it make sense. So like historically, Turkey was able to look at 30% growth, right?
Yeah.
That's huge.
They're like, geographically in a very good spot, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of connect. So they kind of connect Europe to the Middle East and to Asia, right? So
the vast majority of Turkey is in what's called Asia Minor.
Oh yeah.
Which but then there's that little bit of Turkey that is in Europe. So it is the crossroads of kind of the continents of that part of the world. There's a little zone in through that area called the Bosphorus, which at its narrowest point is only half a mile wide, through which huge amounts of trade travel annually. If you really think about it, I think it was 3% of the oil that goes by ship goes through that strait.
Wow. It's like if Evergrande happened there, if they got clogged. It would have been
a disaster. So so the Suez Canal, about 5.4% of surface shipped oil goes through the Suez Canal. About 3% goes through the Bosphorus, right? So it's about half the value in that respect for oil, but it's not just oil. So like all grain being shipped by sea out of Ukraine goes to the Bosphorus or to Turkey, right? So either to someone on the water there or through the Bosphorus. Yeah. Huge amounts of other trade that are being shipped out of Ukraine or out of Russia by ship goes through the Bosphorus, right? So it's a very, very important waterway. Yeah. I think I read that something like on an annual basis, 48,000 ships will travel through the Bosphorus. Wow. So that's not quite 1,000 a week.
But they're like big cargo ships with like, I don't know,
absolutely
30,000 things of freight on it, right? Like,
These are freighters.
Yeah, they're huge. So one of those things is it's I don't know, probably carrying $7 billion worth of commodity. So yeah, it's a super important in terms of like where it's geographically related. It's a very important country. So what happened? Like, didn't they sell a bunch of bonds to Europe?
Yeah,
and Asia?
So they did a lot of debt financing. Yeah. Basically, they funded their nation's growth through debt. They've had a single leader in Erdogan. They've had a single party in control for 20 years, really.
Yeah, but they had these infrastructure projects that were really poorly managed. Yeah, and they're listen, I don't know how they were poorly managed. They just were poorly managed and not much. Like basically, like what you said, there was just no return on investment. There's no ROI on the other side.
Yeah. So you're seeing like the economic growth slowing. Like right now, they're at 2 to 3%, and for a nation with GDP basically the size of theirs, that's not good. Like the U.S., you might see GDP growth of 2%, 3%, and be like, that's standard. China, you'd see 5%. They say 5%. That's not true, but they say 5%.
Literally, so
historically, Turkey's been like 30.
Well, so since you brought the China thing, I'll just say this: no country ever has seen a population decline and GDP growth. Like not just a population decline, but like a population decline and a labor number of workers
and a labor force.
Like a rapidly shrinking labor force and a rapidly shrinking population. Just
absolutely at the same time as GDP growth.
Yeah, this is not possible. So
no, especially when you look at what the Chinese look at, which is or what supply chain people are looking at with Chinese buying, and they're like, yeah, look at all this production. And it's like we're not buying anything. Like, they have huge reserves of raw materials. I don't deny that, but at the same time, it's like if I'm a bakery and I'm like I'm declare that I'm selling huge amounts of bread. And people are like, he doesn't buy any grain. It's like, how does that, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Right, exactly. So that's essentially what's happening with China. But anyways, I just want to touch that base and move on. But so
Turkey has, these issues, they ran up the credit card bill. They kind of went wild. And as the currency, because they were printing currency too in a pretty mean way, quantitative easing.
Well, I think what Erdogan did too was like, okay, I don't want to default on these loans, so I'm going to take control of the Turkish central bank, and I'm gonna force whoever the president is to print money to service these loans
and lower interest rates. He also pushed for the lowering of interest rates, right? So that people could borrow money to reinvest, to spend, to do whatever. And he's like, look, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. This is the guy at the bar, right? Yes. This is the guy at the bar who's like, we're really, really drunk, and you're with him, and you're like, hey man, we need to slow down. We're getting pretty drunk. And he's like, yeah, you're right. We are getting pretty drunk. But you know the solution? Shots.
Shots, everybody. Let's go.
Do more shots.
Let's go.
I was like, well, no. We need to slow down on shots, right? So in this case, shots are inflation. Or if not that, drunkenness is inflation. And then alcohol is, or in this case, shots would be interest rates, right? And so it's like, he's like, yeah, we'll just keep putting them down and it'll be fine. And I'm like, I would say probably, maybe we ease back. Maybe we hold off on lowering our rates. Maybe we raise rates. Maybe we drink some water. try to go the other way on that one.
Let's drink some water, eat some food, right?
Mhm.
Let's do a little bit of QT or whatever it is, and let's do stuff like that. But no, this guy. I mean, like, first of all, in 2018, I think this is when it started. Did he start firing central bank presidents, like whatever it is, like the Jerome Powell, but the Turkish Jerome Powell? He started firing them like every 6 months.
Yeah, about that. About every time an economist gets into place and is like, actually, we need to start doing things to try and stabilize the economy, is about the time he fires them because they're saying things he doesn't want to hear.
This sounds really bad, but I think what Turkey needs is more of Draghi. Like, I think it's exactly what they need.
They definitely need a Draghi type, and that's what they're hoping for with Kılıçdaroğlu. Is that he is supposed to be that?
Is he kind of a technocrat kind of guy too, like Draghi is?
Well, he's not necessarily a technocrat. He's more of a he believes economists when they say you need to raise rates. Like, he accepts that there's going to be some financial hardship. There's going to be economic hardship to come.
Well, no kidding.
He accepts that. Here. He's like, well, no, this is not okay. Yeah, there's a hangover coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, look what's happening here. Look what's happening in the UK. Look what's happening in the Eurozone, right, with the ECB, right? So
I'm going to put this way. Turkey is facing inflation that just this week just barely came in under 50%. To be fair, though, since in the last 3 years, their currency has lost 70% of its value, of its buying power against the dollar to an all-time low, entertainingly an all-time low. And it's very much one of those things where it's like,
I'll be honest with you, unless your savings account was yielding 70%,
you lost value.
Yeah, you just lost money. Or unless the short-term treasury, the 1-year T-bill for Turkey, whatever they call that bond.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not delivering. 70%. No,
I don't think you're buying that for $300 and getting a $1,000 par. I don't think it's
no.
Happening.
You're let's just say that the risk-free isn't there.
Yeah, no. It's
at no point have Turkish bonds ever been considered risk-free. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no. But so that's pretty fascinating. I think. I don't know what this guy, I don't know what his outlook is.
Well, so today he did get some good news. So the third party guy, the guy who had something like 9% of the vote, and Erdogan only needs about 0.5% to get to 50%. But
how is he
this
so
third party guy?
I still don't get it, but I know he is. I know he's wildly popular.
Well, because he controls the state media, and most people in Turkey only speak one language.
That helps.
Yeah. So when you control the media, like, how's Putin so popular? Well, first off, the polls aren't always that, and Putin's polls aren't accurate, one. But two, they control the media. And if people can only read or write in Turkish, and they only speak Turkish, well, if I control all the Turkish media that's coming to you, they don't have the same First Amendment privilege as we do.
Just like President Xi is wildly popular in China.
Yeah, the state apparatus. So. I mean, in China, it's what they say versus what they think. Like, say in China, at least you have a lot of people who do read and write or speak a different language.
Yeah, they all speak.
Usually all English, but not always.
English.
That's why the Chinese have firewalls on the internet. It's like, well, you could read English, but only the English we want you to read. Not, you don't get to see that global other banks and other newspapers are going, this is what China's doing, and their economy's not in great shape.
Tiananmen Square? What happened in Tiananmen Square? Nothing happened.
Nothing. I don't care how many times Serge Tonkian has told me, why don't I ask the kids at Tiananmen Square? I keep looking it up. Nothing.
I love the Serge Tonkian reference, man. That's great.
I figure, the Armenians, they have they have a history in Turkey and other things. So I'll throw out my little System of a Down reference.
Yes, love it, dude. Anytime you want to reference System of a Down, I'm here for it, dude.
I killed me that the only show they're playing this year is in Vegas.
I know, dude. Which I might go to because it's only 5 hours away from me. But that's a pretty fascinating thing that's happening with Turkey, and I think
absolutely,
we've harped on them for a while, like it's just completely irresponsible, monetary and fiscal policy.
Yeah, and I think go back and look. There was a coup, I say with quotation fingers, because it wasn't really a coup that occurred in 2017. I want to say, but it might have been 2018. But what you see is at that point you see that certain military officers are getting purged, that a lot of judges were purged. A lot of people that would have been roadblocks, checks on the power of Erdogan, were purged because of a failed coup that probably was an inside job. It was probably him going, rattle the cages, see who's willing to fall in line, or just do it, and I'll use it as a pretext to fire people. Yeah, there's a great expression, the casus belli, so the cause for war, and he's like, you do this, and I'll use that as my reason. Like, it's
kind of like Godfather-esque.
Essentially a false flag, or you put things out there and you go, let's just there's arguments that certain things historically have been done to entice the enemy so that you can be like, no, they came at me. I'm now defending.
Yeah, exactly.
To try and find the moral right.
So maybe that's what's happening with President Erdogan. He's like, all right, this coup, who started this coup? Now I got to fire everybody that I don't trust.
Yeah.
Get rid of the checks
all
and balances.
All these people that were against me, it must have been them.
Yeah,
I'll get rid of them.
You've always hated me. You've always disagreed with me in all these board meetings. So yeah, that's you. You're out of here.
You keep saying raise interest rates. So clearly you've got to go.
Yeah. That's a very fascinating story coming out of Turkey, and I think it ties in well with what's going on here because we're right up against the debt ceiling. We've been talking about this for forever, and flip on the news channel, flip on the TV, whether you want to talk about politics, whether you want to talk about economics, whether you want to talk about just stuff that's happening.
Yeah, it's coming up.
That's something is staring at you in the face. I mean, I turn on the TV for 2 seconds and it's literally what's gonna happen if the likelihood of default, the X date, the June 1st X date, right? What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Are we gonna come up with a deal before then? Is Kevin McCarthy really gonna wage war on the White House, on the administration?
Well, on the world at this point, it's not because it's not just it hurts here, but it hurts everywhere, right? Because the U.S. every recession. Every single financial or economic issue the U.S. has ever had has been exported to the world.
Yes,
the U.S. 100%. Doesn't like to share until we really like to share. It's misery loves company.
Well, it's funny you say that because not only are we not only do we have the biggest GDP in the world, by far, we produce more than anybody in the entire country, but at the same time, we also buy more stuff too. We're the world's biggest customer.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's why, speaking to your point earlier, we export all these recessions because, we buy so much stuff from everybody else.
So technically, no. There's one block that is slightly bigger than the U.S.
in terms of
imports, and it's the EU.
Okay, well that doesn't count. That's 19 countries or 18 countries.
Well, that's the thing because it takes because it isn't until number 3 that you actually run into the first EU nation, and it's Germany, of course. But so it's the United States,
China.
Yeah, the United States, China, Germany, and then Japan, then the UK, right? But if you look at the values, it's the United States consumes $2.4 million.
The trillion.
Yeah. China is just slightly over 2.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. I thought our neck was a little bit longer than that, but okay, fair enough. I appreciate.
But to be fair, then Germany is 1 point, not quite 1.2. Right, so it's a gap.
No, I really appreciate you correcting me on that. And seriously, if I cite something and I'm way off, let me know. I really want to know, please. And I think
as a single nation, the U.S. consumes more than anyone else. And
which is why
to be fair, remember, China consumes a huge amount of natural resources that they buy and then stockpile. Right, so those imports, it's very much are you using it or are you just buying it to buy it?
Yeah,
if you're not consuming goods, then it's you're just hoarding, you're Smog the Dragon, right?
Yeah, and you're not actually producing any economic, there's no utility coming out of that. So
no,
you're not creating any economic value. But I think it's fascinating too, because we're in this phase where as we approach the debt ceiling crisis or whatever it is, people are saying the X date is
X date is when there's no more cash.
Yeah.
And right now they're saying it's June. It's the expectation is it's June 1st. It might be June 3rd. Goldman Sachs has said it might be as far back as June 7th or 8th. Yeah. But it is that first week in June.
Yeah. So I think what I keep hearing, and I've heard this so many times today, just from watching CNBC today, was if McCarthy doesn't come up with an agreement by June 1st, the government is probably going to default or shut down or both.
Well, it won't shut down, but it will default for the first time in history. The U.S. will default on its debt.
You know what to say, man? There's a first time for everything, right?
But there shouldn't be for some things.
There's for some things there should not be. There's
So here's kind of how that looks, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Because it starts in financial markets, because the basics of financial markets are underpinned by the risk-free rate.
100%.
The U.S. Treasuries, you're going to get paid.
The entire world discounts all their securities. It's so weird how this works, but the entire world discounts securities to the risk rate of the government. The U.S. government. Yeah, not even just any government, but so you have a 2-year bond, discount that to the U.S. 2-year Treasury, whatever the yield is on that, discount it to that yield, right? It's crazy.
So they use U.S. debt. U.S. sovereign debt is used as a basis for everything, for loans, because that if you're My alternative is I can put it in a treasury and I'm gonna get paid. Risk-free rate.
Yeah,
There is no risk.
Yeah, you want to buy preferred stock and your timeline is 2 years. Well, it's like, okay, what's the capital appreciation? Well, like all that stuff, right? It's like, okay, well, the alternative is I can just buy a 2-year government bond that is issued by the U.S. government that has never defaulted. I can do that.
Yeah.
Or I can buy a preferred stock.
And if I'm getting a better payout from the government than from you, what is in my why would I
have no incentive to buy that preferred share, right? So exactly. So this is a very pivotal event that underpins the global financial system, right? If all of a sudden, first of all, if we get downgraded, if there is quote unquote what they call credit risk in the fixed income asset class, if there is credit risk in the US government bond, that's a big issue. And right now, the fact that we're at above a 1% chance of default, like that's pretty drastic. And I think it really comes down to just
it's all I can think of is I can tell you how I think this looks like as it tumbles out. But there's a great line, and it's a Bill Murray line from Ghostbusters.
Love that movie.
It's
Love
essentially
that movie.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Like that line, that one line where he's in the mayor's office, It's just like dogs and cats living together. It's just like that kind of chaos. That's what it would look like. It would actually be much, much worse than that. It'd be disastrous. Like it's this.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about this from a perspective of, okay, let's just look at what happens on June 2nd. So you get to June 1st, the U.S. runs out of money. Well,
yeah.
Janet Yellen has already said what the Treasury will do. She said this is what we will have to do.
What? What'd she say?
Payment prioritization. The U.S. isn't out of cash. It's just out of cash, enough cash to pay everything that it owes that day.
It's still a default. Or maybe that's not a default, but that's like a payment in arrears. Okay, fine.
No, it's default.
Okay,
it is default.
Okay, well, I just didn't know if you want to soften the blow. Like I know a lot of people like to.
No point. Here's the thing. The credit rating agencies downgraded the U.S.'s bond rating in 2011. They didn't even get close to X date. It was that they got close to the debt ceiling day, and they downgraded on the fear that the U.S. wouldn't solve it. That was 5 months ago.
But that's credit ratings agencies. Like this is the thing about credit rating agencies is like they are so far behind the curve. So like if you see that the US government, first of all, I'm not saying this is like a good practice, but it's not the worst practice out there, right? If you see a AAA rated bond, you can pretty much look at the bond and be like, it's not going to default. Right? It's essentially because no AAA bond, no high investment grade rated bond has ever defaulted. So that's a good benchmark. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, these credit ratings agencies, like they're so far behind the curve. They're not up with the times at all, and they don't make upgrades and downgrades as fast as they want to make them because they don't want to make upgrades and downgrades on the same security for every 2 weeks.
No, I know,
right?
And they try to be slow. But what I'm saying is that we're looking at a that's how they reacted to approaching to just the possibility, like not even like last minute possibility, just like the possibility the U.S. could default. Now we're essentially at this point, we're sitting 2 weeks from X day, not even 2 weeks from X day.
No, it's a week and a half. I mean, next Thursday is the X day, and we're recording on Monday, the 22nd, May 22nd. So yeah, I mean, next Thursday is the X date. Technically, like is what Janet Yellen is calling the X date. I don't know if it actually is, but I think that's when they start running a little bit low on cash. They're saying that June 15th, a lot of tax revenue starts coming in.
Quarterly tax payments, but
if they can hold
the issue
off,
is they think those are going to be low.
Yeah, but if they can, which is so weird. That's such a weird thing to think about because like 2022 was one of the best. I mean, I don't know if it was 2022 or 2021, but one of these like it was like a year from like July, I think, of 2021 to like July to like June of 2022. It was like the best 12 months of tax revenue the U.S. government has ever received or something like that. I think it was around that time. I think it was that time frame. I could be a little bit off. But yeah, it's so weird to think about that. And then all of a sudden now it's like, all right, tax revenues suck. June 15th, if we do hold off this debt ceiling talk until June 15th, when the U.S. government is actually going to get a little bit more cash on hand, the cash on hand that they're probably going to receive still probably won't be enough to actually take care of this issue. So like,
no, it won't solve the problem.
Yeah, no.
So she said, so the payment prioritization is this. What she said is, that day, what we'll prioritize is we're going to prioritize the bondholders. So the Treasury will continue to make coupon payments on bonds.
Sounds a little familiar.
We'll continue to essentially that they're going to try and regulate that. But here's who they're not going to pay. And they very explicitly said these people will not be paid. Social Security checks will not go out. the military will not be paid.
That sucks.
Yeah, because
I have a buddy of mine deployed in Afghanistan right now, and if he doesn't get paid, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah,
So,
like if I was, you're overseas doing your job, and the government goes, "Hey, we're not paying you this week." I'll be honest, that doesn't work for long.
yeah, no.
It hasn't really happened in the modern world so much, but boy, you'd see in Napoleonic armies that in the Napoleonic era and the Victorian era that the second the money runs out, militaries tend to stop fighting. And even worse, if you're Russia or places like that, when the money runs out, militaries often tend to turn on the governments that are supposed to pay them, and they've already got the guns. So it's
it's like
it's not
and
a great
they're
time.
well trained, and they're all that kind of stuff. Not only do they have the gun, they know how to shoot it.
Yeah.
So and they know how to duck for cover. So
in theory,
yeah, it ain't a good look.
No, but it's bad. It would be demonstrably bad. It would not be good. And that's just people not getting paid. Like if you really want to think about it, like okay, so now you go to issue new debt, and even though you were prioritizing payments, someone's sitting here going, is it really risk free? Because they've defaulted once. Like the trend is they default, and they get closer and closer to catastrophic full default each time. Maybe it isn't so risk free. So
yeah.
But here's what happens to me. Before even you worry about people not getting paid, which isn't good. June 1st, if there's no deal, the second you hit X day and there's no deal, the stock markets crash.
Yeah.
It'll be the worst day in the stock market since 1987. And the only reason it'll be since 1987 is because 87 was the worst day, percentage-wise, in history. And you can't go past 20% now.
Yeah. Now they put guardrails there. Yeah. So
the dollar amount will be bigger, but the percentage will be...
I mean, there's an argument to that, too. Is like, okay, so the risk-free rate isn't risk-free anymore. Now, all of a sudden, is it better to hide out into equities? So, like, I don't think it is. But, like, I don't know if the stock market is going to be... I don't know if it's going to react that atrociously to it. I don't think it's going to react well to it.
I think you see if it's not 20% in one day, because it might not be. I think it would be.
It could be.
I think you
see.
I
totally like. I'll just say this: if that does happen, which I don't think it will, but if it does happen, I wouldn't be shocked to see 20%. It's
because the computers. It's the computers executing the high speed trades. They just start dumping the second it starts going the wrong way.
Right.
There's that great line in Margin Call, which is just like, ooh, fuck me. Once it starts going the wrong way, it's quick.
Well, I think. I mean, do we hit pre-COVID lows, right? Or I mean, not pre-COVID, but COVID lows. Do we hit COVID lows? Maybe. I think we've come very close to it if it does happen, because that's the markets. I think have been looking for a reason to go back down there, and this would be a pretty compelling reason for that to happen.
Absolutely would. But here's the other thing: is what I'll say is on the other side, like signing a deal. Like a real deal, not one like, we've pushed it back 30 days. We've raised the debt ceiling for 30 days. We've suspended it for 30 days. Like a real, like even a shitty solution, like we've raised it by blank amount, which should last 2 years or whatever. Like a shitty solution like that, like a kicking the can down the road solution.
It's still,
that would be enough for the markets to shoot up.
Yeah. But like, I think the problem is like, okay, so the markets, like right now, the markets have we can both look at the charts and agree that we've been range bound, right? Like we've been stuck in this range. Like it's been a sideways market for a long time. Why is the VIX at 17? I talked about it earlier. Why is the VIX at 17.21? We have no idea what the Fed is going to do. We have no idea if the U.S. government is going to default. We're still kind of we're sitting on this fence going like, all right, are we pivoting? One, and then two, are we going to default?
Yeah.
Right? And I think
there's compelling reasons for the market to go down, and there are less compelling, but market-based reasons for the markets to go up. And I think at this point they don't know which one. Well, we should get minutes this week from a Fed meeting, which would be the good news in theory. But we also know that
very much a theory,
next day is in a week and a half.
Yeah.
So the bad news is right after. And like, what's the point in pushing into a position? Also, the next thing is you're trading in US dollars, which what's that worth if...
Yeah, but I think, I think part of the reason why the VIX has been so low is just because it's like, all right, well, we don't, like, the market has been so range bound in the last 3 months. It's like, okay, but now we really don't expect it to go anywhere. Like, we need some outside force to really...
We need a catalyst.
Kick us in the teeth.
We need great news or bad news to get it moving.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we need a kick in the nuts or we need a $10,000 bonus, right? Like, it's one of those things. Like, there's nothing else in between. that really makes us want, like, there's no compelling reason to short a stock or to buy a stock right now.
Yeah.
Like, the markets just have no clarity, and I think this is so weird. The markets and the Fed have no clarity. Even I really don't think the Federal Reserve has any clarity, because we talked. I mean, I saw an interview with what's his name?
Minneapolis Fed?
Yeah, Minneapolis Fed chair. It was this morning on Squawk or whatever it was on CNBC. Awesome interview with Becky Quick. If you know who Becky Quick is, she is one of the greatest financial journalists.
Is it Neil Kashkari?
Neil Kashkari, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy. Like, seriously, okay, fine. Maybe I speak a little bit too highly of him. Really smart guy. Very good interviewer, and very one of the more transparent guys, I would say, on the Fed board, right? Like, I think he, when he's on TV, he talks a little bit more clearly and communicates a lot better than like a Jonathan Bostic or Mayor Daley, I would say. But
yeah,
he had some really compelling points. He said, like, look, I don't think the tightening cycle's over, and to be honest with you,
which
I don't.
We saw that because Jerome Powell said, like, we may not. I think what Jerome Powell says, we may not have to raise rates as high as we in our meetings had originally thought we would. Yeah, they never said what they might have to go to. But they said is they may not have to go as high. But they certainly haven't indicated a pivot or even a stop. I think they're just saying, like, hey. Like,
yeah, the funny thing, too, was, like, so he said, we're still targeting a 2% average inflation rate, right? And then Becky Quick, in her brilliance, all her brilliance, goes, 2%, not 2.5%, not 3%. And he was like, no, 2%. From there, he talked about the June Fed meeting. It's like, all of a sudden, he's like, look, I'm not going to speak to what we're going to do in June. All I know is that we're probably not going to raise rates.
They don't know what they're going to do in June. Let's put it this way. They don't know.
No, exactly. But he's like, all I know is that we're probably not going to raise rates. We probably need to pause for a little bit. But that doesn't mean the tightening cycle's over, because we can still raise rates later on in the year. We're very committed to targeting that 2% inflation rate, which is how he answered that question. Right. So,
and even if they and if they don't want to raise rates, it's possible that they mess with their quantitative tightening cycle, QT cycle.
Exactly.
Right. The other facilities that they can use to manipulate.
Which makes me think about this. Right. So, like, tying it back to the debt ceiling. Like, all right. So the debt ceiling, they're probably going to solve it. I actually do have a lot of confidence that they are going to solve it. I know a lot of people.
I wish I did.
I know a lot of people think I'm crazy for it, but I really don't. Like, I think Kevin McCarthy, at the end of the day, this political war is not going to go well for him. Like, at the end of the day, like, if Joe Biden goes down and he doesn't like Joe Biden, if Joe Biden goes down, he drags Kevin McCarthy down with him. It's not. Like, like, it's not going to look good for him either. So,
well, the real problem is that Kevin McCarthy has such a small majority in the House. Yeah, right. He has I think it's a two vote. I think he has a two vote majority.
Yeah.
Yeah. If one of them goes down, the other's going too. And the only people entertaining this is what's so stupid about it is the only people who are pretty much not going to get. The only two that aren't going to pay any political price for this are Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. Like, God, those are the only two that are sitting here.
That's so that's so disgusting.
It is.
Those are the two people I hate the most. Like those are two senators.
One is feckless and the other's a monster.
I know, dude. They both. I don't know which is which. Which is the funny thing. Like,
I'm not gonna go. It depends on the day, because the answer is yes.
Exactly, because they both suck. I hate. Like, I don't like both of those.
I don't care for them either.
Yeah, dude.
Let's put it that way.
Okay, so in the famous words of Henry Rollins, if you don't know who Henry Rollins is, he's a punk rock icon. And all
right, what you got for me?
Yeah, so he's a punk icon. If you know the band Black Flag, are you a Black Flag fan?
I've heard. I'm not a huge fan, but I've heard.
It's only that one album that I know, so it's not. The album's great, but whatever. So, like, in the famous words of Henry Rollins, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've been drinking, so just take that with a grain of salt. But
fair.
I would like to see their life shortened.
Fair.
Famous words of Henry Rollins.
There's a lot of politicians where I'm like, you've lived long enough. I think it's time to go.
Well, the funny
people are like, do you want them to die or leave office? I'm like, yeah, whichever comes first. I don't care. One usually leads to the other. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but the funny thing is, like, Henry Rollins said that about Bono, the lead singer of U2.
I might be right there too.
I happen to. Bono after 1990, yeah, he kind of got too carried away. But Bono before 1990, he was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah. So, like, that's how I feel about those guys. And I think, at the end of the day, I still think they're going to come down. Like they're going to come down to an agreement because I don't think this political war is actually going to go very well for Kevin McCarthy.
It's not going to go well for either of them. Let's put it this way: there's no winners in this. It's why I very much. And I think we were talking about this last week. I know we were talking about this last week. My view is, if you are an elected official who has a vote in this process, so president, senator, member of the House,
whatever,
and you. Whether you vote yes to deal with the debt ceiling or whether you vote no to deal with the debt ceiling, I think you should all be. And the U.S. were to fail, were to default on its debt, I think you should be punished. My punishment is very simple. It's that the second we default, you stop getting paid.
They should stop getting paid first. 100%.
Absolutely, they stop getting paid before anyone else, and they don't get to vote their money back to themselves. You failed to do your job. You don't know. We won't pay you.
No sympathy whatsoever.
So that's what we have to talk about. It's very much a look. You will not default.
Well, the funny thing too is like both sides have a pretty compelling argument, which I'll admit to that. I'll admit to that. So like Kevin McCarthy's argument is we need to get our spending under control. But I'm like, okay,
pass a budget.
Yeah, okay.
That's the solution to that.
Well, let's get our spending under control. But like right now, do you really like? I mean, this guy is holding the entire global financial system by the balls, and he's saying, "Listen to me, everybody. We need to get our spending under control. There's no way around it. This is good for the American people," which I agree with. But it's like this is not the time or the place to really play that card.
This is not the method. You know, this is the real thing. He's got the global economy and the global financial system hostage.
Yes,
and the United States doesn't negotiate with terrorists. It's one of those things you're like. But when the hostage taker, when the terrorist is a part of the U.S. government, it's very much what do we do now? No, to me, it's very simple. It's that both sides. You're right. Both sides actually make compelling points in how they want to do it. Republicans want to. I think they want to cut. They want to cut spending.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't really want to cut spending. A lot of the things they want to cut spending on were priorities and spending decisions they made in the last administration. So like Trump spending decisions. It's like, well, you can't do that. That's not really going to work in the long run. The Democrats, they want to raise revenue and cut a little bit of spending, but not much. But they want to raise revenues by raising tax rates on certain things, which I think are probably correct, but at the same time,
it's very unpopular.
It's not popular.
It's super unpopular.
They're both
about the whiskey rebellion, right? Like,
exactly right. You know, and the funny thing is you get to 1797, I think the tax was repealed.
Yeah,
that's what most people don't talk about. Is that after that? So when Washington's administration crushed that rebellion, it did settle the federal government. It proved that the federal government was capable and willing of enforcing its will on the country. The federal system worked, but they didn't. They don't point out that tax collectors really didn't collect the taxes that hard. You know that often. They were very lackadaisical about doing their job for being alive reasons, and then the tax was repealed under the Jefferson administration. So it's a it was a great test of the system,
right? But, I'm with you on that. Okay, so if they do come up with an agreement, which I think they will, right? Okay, odds are what's going to happen with money supply? Like just take a
see, that's the hard thing is the money supply goes up. Hang on, does it go up?
No, I'm saying all else held constant, right? So I'm not trying to complicate the issue. I'm not trying to put another function in the equation.
Well, there's more money out there. The government's allowed to spend again or keep spending. At least let's put it this way: the money supply does not go down. It'll go down. It'll go down if Social Security and the military aren't paid. It'll go down.
100%. Yeah.
A lot of enlisted guys got to make car payments. You know.
Yeah. Exactly. House payments, car payments, whatever it is. So so that happens. Money supply goes up because it has to, it gives the treasury, it gives the Fed more money, more permission to print more money, right? And
things go back to normal, and so not even the Fed permission to print more money, just the Treasury permission to issue more bonds.
Either
which
way,
is the funny thing is that actually might draw cash out of the market, or cash out of markets because bonds paying 5 to 5.5%. Right? Yeah, so much better than.
I know. So that's a funny story to talk about too when you compare that. I mean, compare and contrast.
Well, to a savings account paying 2%.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So savings account. I mean, a savings account paying 2% on me up, but a savings account paying 0.85%.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's
Well, but instead of that, hey, a T-bill paying 5.
dude, yeah.
Sign
why
me
would you
up.
not, dude? Sign me up there. You got to be kidding me, man. Like if I'm going to
Yeah.
get a 4.7% yield on a 3-month bond, like
Hell
dude,
yeah.
come on, let's
Like
go, dude.
and so that's causing a lot. That's causing a lot of these liquidity problems. I think at the banks, right? Like people are taking their money out of deposits,
dude,
and they're going to treasuries.
Dude,
and I think that if they get this problem solved, that's definitely true.
Yeah, I was trying to say that last week when I had all the tech issues was the biggest competitor for the savings account. It like you talk about why national savings rates are so low. It's like, dude, well, like you can put your money in a savings account, or you can buy an I bond that pays 6%, or you can buy a T bill that pays 4%. Like, come on, like which one do you want? So it's way more appealing, like from that aspect than just going to a savings account. But yeah, like so. Money supply goes up when the
government's spending money.
If the debt ceiling gets resolved, which I think it will. I don't think McCarthy will play this political game because everybody does. They all do this. They always play this political game. They say,
"Oh yeah, no one's innocent."
Dude, nobody's innocent. Yeah, I mean both sides have done this, right? So they play this political game. Let's get our spending under control. Like right at the 11th hour, they always make it work, but usually they kick the can down the road. But whatever. Let's just say
here's like kind of the one thing I guess for this episode that I'll say is if you happen to be in the United States and you happen to feel so inclined, I don't necessarily know who your representative is, who your elected officials are, but I would strongly advise you in the next week to make some phone calls, send some mail. Tie up their lines. Make sure that the offices and therefore the officials, the elected official in question, understands that when you fuck with the full faith and credit of the United States, that might affect and piss off the citizens you're supposed to be doing your best for. And
100%.
If this is your best, it's not good enough.
No, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, like think about it like this. Like I don't know if you're traveling to Europe anytime soon, and you're trying to buy some nice Bordeaux wine from France. You kind of want the government to not default. That's all I'm going to say. The U.S. government. All I'm going to say is like, so all of a sudden money supply goes up because if they do pass, which I'm 99% sure that they will. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99% sure that they will pass some sort of resolution here. It's going to increase money supply. And what's that going to do with inflation? Any guesses?
More money, more problems.
More money,
more inflation. Right? So more money, more inflation. Now there are a few things on the other side that I think might be more constricting on inflation, and it's a few different things. A few different kind of economic indicators are coming home to suggest that there's some other liquidity issues. Well, so you have J.P. Morgan. Or is it JP Morgan? No, it's Jamie Dimon.
I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, over it because he's at JP Morgan.
Yeah, I know he's the best bank CEO.
But he's come out and he said that if you're looking at he has concerns about commercial real estate and the debt underwriting commercial real estate. And so he's saying you're going to start to see liquidity tightening in a lot of banks because of that.
But that's kind of an issue that we saw from a mile away.
Oh yeah, but at the same time, here's the next thing: is that bankruptcies are starting to creep up again. They're still lower than 2019 levels of bankruptcy registrations, but bankruptcy rates they're coming up and they're increasing quite rapidly. So we're looking at more bankruptcies. So big ones, Bed Bath Beyond.
But that's like, kind of what happens when interest rates rise, like the way they do.
Absolutely.
And when the entire economic environment has shifted and people are still getting used to the adjustment of this is the new normal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's going to create some bankruptcy.
Well, absolutely. And then you have these zombie companies that were surviving only because they existed for a decade or longer at basically 0% interest rate. They're not going to be able to survive 5%. That's just not feasible. And it's essentially you've got a decade plus 15 years of business leaders and people running businesses who, while they have risk departments and risk management departments, have never actually worked or existed in a world where there is risk. Right. And so it's all coming. It's
not even just like a world where there is risk, but it's like a world that there is an alternative that has less risk, right? Like a guaranteed alternative that has yield and less risk. And right now
huge yield and less risk.
Yeah, right now we're looking at so the risk-free rate is about 5%. Like, so I mean, if you really want to discount everything to the Fed funds rate, which is not pretty much the entire global financial system does that. But the U.S. Fed funds rate is what, 5 to 5.25 now, or
Five
is
to
it?
5.25. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, if you want to discount everything to that, that's not a bad idea. Like,
Yeah.
you want to buy security that pays you a 5.25% annual yield every 3 months. It's like, dude, yeah, that's like, yeah, the
Yeah.
S&P gets that versus like buying Apple stock. Like which
Yeah.
which would you rather have?
And Apple's dividend is can be attractive, but also I can get a lot more bonds. Right. So what did Apple close at today? I didn't actually look
Oh,
at.
I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea what. I'm not trying. Like, I just picked Apple because it's the biggest company in the world. But like, it's just like you had to choose between that or Apple, and it's like, dude, like, all right, if I'm a money manager and I know for sure, in an environment where inflation is at 5%, 4.9%, if you want to look at the last reading exactly, it's like, all right, well, I can buy this bond as long as I remember to roll it over every 3 months. I'm getting a 5% yield. I'm getting a 5.2% annual yield on this. Like, why wouldn't I do that for my clients when inflation's at 4.9% and I have no idea what Apple's going to do, because in a recessionary environment, Apple, like all the other companies, they tend to remember that they're also equities. Why wouldn't I just go back into this guaranteed return? But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, what if it's not guaranteed anymore, right? What if Moody's and S&P next week decides to downgrade it to double A?
Yeah, it's basically I guess here's the weird analogy. It's like pretend you have kids for a minute. So you have a babysitter who's like, that's the babysitter who's never had a kid die, and then suddenly it's like, that's the babysitter who's only had one kid die. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. That's perhaps more risk than you'd be comfortable with on a babysitter, even if it's not their fault. And I'll be honest, in this case, the babysitter, it is their fault.
Yeah, but okay,
right.
Okay, yeah, and I know, and I loved harping on that point. But okay, so let's just back away from that point again. I think I was asking a question earlier about, so all of a sudden money supply goes up because they resolve this thing, which is
they resolve it. Money supply's up, inflation follows.
Which is scary. Yeah, which is not necessarily a likely possibility, but it is a possibility. In my opinion, it's a more likely possibility than it isn't. But I understand the caution and the fears. But okay, so they come up with a possibility. Money supply goes up. Does that encourage members of the Federal Reserve to all of a sudden say, "Hey, we got this figured out. Money supply is going up. We need to make up for that on some end, somehow, whatever it is. We either need to tighten up QT, which I'm okay with, or we need to raise interest rates even more." What do you think? What do you think happens?
I think they have to look at what's happening, and they have to take a macro view of the environment, right? So if Jamie Dimon's right, and if you're starting to see defaults in commercial real estate,
we're going to see that. I'm due 100%.
A lot of the quantitative easing they did was by buying mortgage-backed securities or debt-backed securities backed on these commercial real estate loans. So on the one hand, you might be sitting here going, well, they can't turn around. They can, but they can't. Like, it's not necessarily a good idea to turn around to banks and go, hey, those loans that on that real estate that are bad that you sold us for cash in 2020. You're buying them back now, and they're all in awful shape. Like it's one of those things like that would devastate the banking system. So you can't do that.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think at that point you have to close some of your lending facilities, or you have to make more strict some of your lending facilities. You have to take away. You have to utterly remove any profit opportunity from the use of your overnight lending facilities.
Yeah. Well, so I think, like, in terms of commercial real estate, in terms of commercial mortgage-backed securities, let's be honest, like, the commercial mortgage-backed security game has evolved so much since, like, whenever it was, like, Larry Fink created that when, and screw that guy, but like Larry Fink created that a long time ago, I think in like the 80s or whatever.
It was the 70s, right? 80s,
Yeah, whatever, yeah. So he created that facility, and all of a sudden, like, now I think what we're going to see, if that happens, like, is the lower tranche commercial mortgage securities, like the mezzanine, the sub-mezzanine tranche, those tranches are going to get absolutely annihilated.
Okay, right? Hammered. I mean, they're going to do an AT1 impression.
Yeah, dude,
as they go to zero.
And I'm not confident on the senior loan ones either. Like, I don't think the senior loan ones are going to do that. Because, like, commercial real estate, I think, has really entered into a weird phase of the market. And I think if you watch anybody on CNBC, they're kind of echoing the same message. Commercial real estate is not that appealing right now because it's kind of like the entire world has kind of gone hybrid.
Yeah, you've had a lot of people working from home. You have a lot of offices downsizing their space or going to, or even downsizing their staffs and not needing as much space, right? So,
well, yeah, we could talk more about that, but it's like, that's kind of like a subsector of the fixed income market where, commercial real estate just doesn't seem that appealing.
Yeah. But I was thinking that affects one of the Fed's tightening abilities, right? So when they're sitting here looking to say, like, we're going to take cash out by putting these back on the market. Well, if they're already tanking and cratering, it's like, that doesn't make sense. So I think that raising rates into that is likely, probably not at the June meeting. I think we're probably right. We're going to see a pause. I think for no other reason that they have to see the pause. They have to see what the fiscal arm is doing, if the fiscal arm is going to be there, because you have to know that this meeting has happened. There have to be private phone calls between these guys and Janet, and just them going like, what the fuck are they doing? Because they're sitting there like this, there's like a break the glass plan, and I'm pretty sure that for these guys, like the whole, if the U.S. defaults, it's like, well, what are we going to do if the U.S. defaults? And it's like, fuck, what's the point of even having a meeting? At that point, we're dealing with dollars that have indeterminate value because they're no longer, because the trust has been broken, because the full faith and credit of the United States doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, me, if I could, I would go back to the gold standard. It's a stretch. I see your face, dude. I see your face, man. Come on.
It's not. It's just not feasible.
That's what I'm saying. It's a stretch. It's a total stretch. It's like I like it better, but it's not. It's just not. It's not feasible.
No. It's not. It's not feasible. It's not possible. It's based on just another random commodity. There's a finite amount of, and so it's one of those things where you're like, well, that doesn't work, because then eventually every few years you have to.
Well, then fine. Like it's whatever. Let's let the dollar become more volatile now. Right.
I just said that was a better solution. Whatever. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying like the market as a whole. Like whoever decided this.
Yeah. What's really crazy to me about all this is that the big business isn't calling. Like they get a lot of things passed. Like 90% of people want a law passed. It's got a 20% chance of passing. 70% of businesses want a law passed. It's got a 90% chance of passing.
Yeah. So how does that work?
No business association is calling Congressman going, what are you doing? You will vote to raise the debt ceiling. You will not do. You won't.
Right.
Don't fuck with my money. Bitch, better have my money. Like all. Like what are you trying to accomplish? Like what? Like you do understand you will cripple the market. You will cripple the economy. Like you will.
Yeah.
And whether you're right or wrong, you will go down in history, and not for a good thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Kevin McCarthy's name will be in the history books, but it'll be as the guy who. The Titanic needed to hit a second iceberg to balance out the sinking.
I mean, it's kind of like I don't know. I don't know if Kevin McCarthy had a signature look, but like if he did, and the government was to actually default, that look would be retired, and not for good reason. Like it's for the same reason why if you grow a mustache and you shave outside your nose, but you keep the stash within the nose, that's not a good look. That reminds me.
I see what you mean now. That signature, the McCarthy, that McCarthy haircut is gone.
Exactly. So you see how there was someone in the past that has retired a look.
Yeah, historically. Right? And to be fair, I've seen a lot of pictures of people that used to be a go-to look. Like that was an acceptable form of mustache.
It's like it's Kevin McCarthy. No more. It's like he's a smart guy. He can talk well. And then all of a sudden he just does this, he just decides to wage political war. And I don't know if it's
on everybody. It's like, wow.
And I'll be honest with you, like with Kevin McCarthy, I don't know if there are, to quote Metallica, if there's like a master of puppets pulling the strings for Kevin McCarthy. Maybe that's what's going on. I have no idea.
If we're going to do that, then let's put it this way. If the U.S. defaults on its debt, I know for whom the bell tolls.
Yes. Thank God. But, yeah, dude. So we'll see what happens. I think they're going to come up with something. And if they do, it's going to hurt money supply. Like in the sense that it's actually going to contribute to money supply.
It's going to increase money. It's going to
increase money supply. But at the same time, I think, okay, so if that happens, maybe we start tightening later on, right? Like, and that's probably what's his name was saying.
Yeah, we have to go to a second round of tightening later after the Fed is able to observe what right now, you're right. We've been bounded. Right now, I think we're seeing a lot of, there's a manic phase wants to happen, but it needs a reason.
But I think it goes to what's his name? Kashkari was saying, the Minneapolis Fed president was like, we raised debt ceiling. We suspend it for a little bit, whatever it is. We do whatever it is. It creates money supply into the economy. You know, he was saying like, we're probably not gonna raise rates in June, but this might not be the end of a tightening cycle. And I think that was kind of his hint and saying like, hey, listen, man. Okay, so if we do pass this, if we do get through this debt ceiling crisis, I think we will. If we do get through this,
I'll see you in August.
Then we'll be data dependent until August. Let's keep this going, man. Let's stay on this train, dude. Let's stay on this data dependent train.
That's great. So I guess what I'll say is, if you want to stay data dependent, you want to stay as awesome as you can. Look, while your dollars, between whether we're right or wrong, think about your buying power and what'll happen with more inflation or with the default. And so what you should do is prepare yourself from the cold times, the warm times, all of it at drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com, where you can find the sweetest swag for summer, fall, winter, spring, and all the seasons in between.
Yes.
Wearing that jersey. Look, I've been to 2 Fed banks with a hoodie on, and one Fed bank in the Treasury with that hoodie on. To make very clear, I don't approve of everything you're doing in there. You need to be more drunkenomical and get it together. You wear that hoodie on, you wear that hoodie, that shirt, whatever it is, and it tells everyone around you who knows, and anyone who asks, this guy definitely knew how to avoid the problem we're currently in.
Yes.
And he or she, why weren't we listening to them? Because these guys, they got their heads on straight.
Exactly. And you can find that at, what's that called? Shop.
That's it's drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com.
That's what it is. We've got some great new logos there. Hoodies, black hoodies, even darker black hoodies. Tank tops, black tank tops, even darker black tank tops. We have all of those available. And of course, if you want to throw a tip in the tip jar, you can always go to patreon.com/drunkenomics. That's patreon.com/drunkenomics. The people there.
DRUNKENOMICS?
Thank you. Sorry about that. I missed that out. But dude, you're on fire on that, dude. But
practicing.
All you Patreon folks, thanks for bailing me out of Boston. I wasn't actually trapped, in case you guys were wondering, but I had a great time there. It was I drank a lot of good scotch. That's all I'm gonna say. So thanks for bailing me out there. And of course, seriously, I really appreciate you guys drinking along with us. This has always been a lot of fun for me. It's always been a highlight of my week. I hope it's been a highlight of your week too.
Absolutely.
So with that, my encouragement to you is continue to play chestnut checkers. Don't brag, just say. Always remember to fill and kill, but most importantly, remember to do, what's that one thing again? I forget
no matter what, just stay drunkenomical, guys.
That's what it is. Cheers, my friend. I had to take a sip.
Cheers.